Hey guys, so before we begin this Facebook ads case study, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about me. I, for the last 6 months, have been traveling all around Europe 1 month at a time. And currently, as you can see now, I am in Croatia, in Zagreb. And I took my dog with me, Django. Say hi, Django. Yes. And we have been traveling, and it's all because of Facebook ads. It's all because of what I do for my clients. It's what we do in my own campaigns that I run and for people that I'm coaching. So hopefully you get a little bit of value out of this specific Facebook ads case study that I'm going to share with you. Please leave a comment below if you find any value in this. Share it, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's go jump over to the PowerPoint, and we'll begin.
All right, guys, so let's jump right into this Facebook ads case study. So just a little warning, as you know, I am sitting next to that big window and I have Django with me here. So if you hear him barking or if you hear people outside, that's just because I'm a traveling man. So there's extra noises in the background. So what you're looking at here is a couple of snapshots of the actual ads and their engagement. The top one up here, and this is all the same campaign. We had multiple different campaigns running to scale up this campaign to where we were spending the amount of money we were spending, which was over $100,000. So as you can see, this ad specifically got over 1.5 million people that actually saw it. 12,000 people reacted to it. Over 2,000 shares of that ad, and just close to 750 comments. Um, this one got close to 500,000, and it got 450-ish engagements and 70 comments. You can see here this million link clicks here was actually this campaign here. Lowest cost we got was on average was 17 cents. Another one we did 51,000 links. This one got 53,000 engagements. That was just a page post engagement campaign. We were testing to see if we could get clicks down to the same level as the link clicks on a page post engagement. So we're just split testing. And then link clicks, again, another link click campaign. So and these were just different. These two link click ones were just different angles that we were running on this campaign. So let's go over kind of how much we were making. So in 30 days, we grossed $186,000 in revenue. And this was a pay-per-call campaign. So for our client, which was the affiliate network, we were driving phone calls. We were driving people to a landing page from the ad, and it went to only mobile devices, and it got people to click the phone number in the ad over 16,000 times. So as you can see on this below image here, this was the paid calls, and this was just the amount, the gross amount. In fact, and it doesn't even include this campaign here. I blurred it out, so I just didn't even include the amount, but it was probably, this number is probably closer to like 25 or 30,000 phone calls. I just didn't include this number, and I mean, even 16,000 seems ridiculous, and it was a lot of phone calls. But actually, paid calls, which was 30 seconds or 60 seconds, was probably like around 7,000 in this campaign, and in this network, it was, I don't know, probably close to the same amount. So we made 102,000 running it in this affiliate network, and yeah, like 80 80,000-ish in this network. You may be asking, well, why did you have to split it up in between two networks? And I've asked this question too when people are showing case studies. And the reason why it was split up was because of the volume. The amount of phone calls we were generating was so much that the affiliate network could only handle so much volume that we are creating. So we had to start splitting up the phone calls to different networks, which is actually really important in this space because outside of like, skincare and stuff or diet related campaigns, the transactions are all digital. They do have physical product demand, but even if they're backlogged a little bit, that's okay. In this case, with a pay-per-call campaign, uh, they literally have seats and asses in those seats. So if their call center only has 50, 100, 200 people sitting in their call center taking calls, those people can only take so many calls every minute. So, if we scale up, we can't continue to push those calls to a certain network. We have to start to diversify which networks can take all those phone calls. And the thing is you got to start really looking at the numbers when you do pay-per-call campaigns because um, if you find that people aren't picking up the phone fast enough, the biggest thing you have to worry about with pay-per-call campaigns is if someone's not picking up the phone calls, then those people hang up. So when a conversion on our end for us to get paid is 30 seconds and people are hanging up between 1 and 29 seconds and we're not getting paid on those phone calls. That's why you'll see here we generated so many phone calls and only like half of them would go through. Now that could be because they literally didn't have enough people at their call center and people are waiting for ever or they just never picked up the actual phone call. So they would hang up, and those phone calls didn't count towards us getting paid by the affiliate network. So something to consider when running phone call campaigns like this, especially when you have something that can go very wide and very large, is to have enough asses in seats to take all those phone calls and to watch those numbers every day to make sure that the amount of calls you're getting and the amount of conversions you're getting off of those phone calls is matching up. So this is the numbers. We did, like I said, $186,000 in 30 days, over 16,000 phone calls, which is probably a lot more than that, but that's just what in this screen grab. And so how much did we do in net profit? So we spent $110,000 in Facebook ads to generate all those phone calls and revenue. So in net profit, it was around 80, a little over 80,000, 85-ish thousand in 30 days from this campaign. So I'm going to go over what we did to actually generate that many phone calls and how we structured a campaign to grow to that level. And it was two ways. It's going vertical and going horizontal, which I'm going to explain. So before we dive into that, let's dive into the demographics here. So after looking at, we knew that the people that we were targeting were college graduates. So that was one targeting requirement that we had when we were starting this campaign. Other than that, we really didn't know too much. We knew the age range was going to be probably between 20 and 35. So we also knew that. Outside of those two factors, we had no clue on what else to target them by. So we initially started a couple of campaigns to see where the conversions were coming from. We knew it was a mobile campaign too, because we didn't want to run desktop. We didn't want people to have to, while it could have been profitable potentially on desktop, the easiest thing was to drive someone to an article where a phone number was there and they click it and they call. So we knew that we wanted to only focus on device types, which was mobile specific. But we didn't know if it was going to be Android or iPhone, which was going to be the highest conversion. So I guess we knew three things. We knew the targeting, specifically we knew college graduates, we knew the age ranges, and we knew we wanted to only focus on mobile for the highest potential revenue. So we started driving clicks. We started listening to phone calls. That was a big thing. Someone else actually recommended that to me. And I thought that's interesting. I'll just listen to maybe 100 phone calls and see what kind of information I can get out of it. And after listening to 100 phone calls, I realized that the ethnicity, the people that were calling in, was Hispanic or African American. So within Facebook ads, you can target by ethnicity. So we started breaking out campaigns into ethnicity types as well as doing all the other targeting here. And then we also broke up the campaigns between Android and iPhone. which we found that Android users were definitely calling more than iPhone users. And the last thing, after listening to phone calls, the Android and iPhone thing, that was just split testing to find out which ones were getting the best conversions. But listening to the phone calls with ethnicity and gender. So after listening to 100 phone calls, I think 80% of them were women calling in. So we started to trim the fat on these campaigns and cut out men, and we cut out iPhone devices, and we started to really scale this thing up. We started seeing very, very profitable campaigns, and that's when we started scaling up vertically. So let's talk about vertical camp. So before I get into vertical and horizontal scaling, let's talk about targeting and what you should do. Always be looking at your stats. One of the biggest issues I find with people that work with me, either from a consulting standpoint or me managing their Facebook ads, is that they aren't looking at their stats. They aren't looking at the breakdown of either age ranges or gender or device types. Um, Even if relationship status. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can target within Facebook. The money, the revenue, your ROI is really in those details, is looking at your stats and seeing where you can trim the fat the most. Something that does a good job with this is Volume. I don't know if anyone of you guys use Volume, but it's a link tracker, but it tracks even more so than what Facebook tracks. And so you can get very granular with maybe seeing if people are coming more from a certain state other than, just targeting a whole country, you know? So using something like Volume in conjunction with looking just at the Facebook stats themselves, um, that's where your ROI is. So make sure you look at that. Um, so vertical and horizontal scaling. So this image here was more of a vertical scaling campaign. So it's really just once we found an angle that worked very well, which didn't take very much time. The ad itself was really a snapshot of a video, and it was a political angle. So it was a picture of Obama, and I literally just took a snapshot of a YouTube video that I found about this certain issue, and that was the ad itself. And then the landing page, all I did was grab the YouTube video and add it onto the landing page and had a phone number above it and below it. And we made sure that it was clickable. So made sure it had the right like telephone HTML code in there, which is very easy to find. If you just search for, you know, HTML telephone, you'll see it's just very simple to add. We just want to make sure that every device that we were targeting was able to click it, because even though we were only targeting at the height of this Android devices, which I think, if you look at any phone number on Android, it'll make it clickable, but it doesn't count for, it's getting 2,000 plus shares, it's getting over 700 comments, it's getting a ton of likes and engagements, reactions. So it doesn't account for all the additional traffic that we're going to get outside of just targeting people that are Android devices. So they may be on older devices that don't have, it maybe not necessarily a smartphone. So we wanted to make sure that it was clickable on every device type. That was the thing. Every device type needed to be clickable. So vertical scaling, we just made sure that once we figured out the right gender, the right country, obviously, and the right age range, then we just continued to increase the budget, increase it, increase it, increase it. Up to we were doing 5,000 a day, and then we had to ask Facebook to give us allow us to spend more per day, and we bumped that up to 10,000 a day we were spending. And then so let's talk about horizontal scaling. So this is horizontal scaling, and this is the second way that we started to scale this campaign. After we went vertical, we started to go horizontal. So like I said, vertical scaling, after we knew gender and age range and country, we're just increasing the budget. But horizontal isn't so much about having a large audience, which with the vertical scaling campaign, the audience size was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 or 6 million people, I think. With horizontal scaling, it was smaller campaigns, it was smaller audience sizes, but it was over 800 different um, individual ad sets with individual targeting that we were going after. So, and examples of like horizontal scaling is going by states or specific car types or schools or cities. Um, it just depends on the campaign that you're running, but that's the beauty of horizontal scaling is that you can custom tailor your message basically for that specific audience. You have to be careful when you're doing this though, because Facebook doesn't necessarily like you calling out somebody, so you have to get kind of creative with how you say your message when you go horizontal. Um, Depending on what it is, either you don't necessarily call it out in the ad copy itself, but potentially in the image is where you have um, that's where you can potentially kind of call out that that unique message that's going to resonate with that very specific audience that you're targeting. So just keep that in mind, and I would always test it, like try testing in the ad copy. Um, Always stay away from the word you if you can, because Facebook, especially when you're calling somebody out on something and you use the word you, they don't like that. So in Facebook's mind, from their user feedback, they've heard that people freak out. If someone, are you a mom that's 34 and has two children and live in California and drive a Honda? And you can target all those ways, right? So people see an ad like that and they kind of freak out, like, wow, Facebook's really collecting a lot of my information. So they don't want people to freak out so much when they see the ads. Obviously, they want ad money, but they don't want to freak out the user base either. So test it in the ad copy, see if you can get away with it. If it doesn't get approved, then stick either the text itself in the ad image or just use an image that is going to resonate with that specific audience that you're targeting. So for instance, if you're targeting a type of car, like a Honda Civic, then have a picture of a Honda Civic in there, and you could even put underneath it like, are you a Honda Civic driver, or whatever the message is, right? So those were the two ways that we scaled this campaign to be spending, upwards of $10,000 a day, um, vertical and horizontal. And so both campaigns were equally large in the amount of clicks that we're generating, just different ways. So let's talk a little bit about horizontal scaling because with 800 different ad sets, I did not have the time to do that. So if you are going to go horizontal with your scaling, here's what I did. Okay, number one, I hired a local friend. I was always trying to help any friends of mine, either my husband's wives or just stay-at-home moms, just give them something to do. Setting up Facebook ads is very simple as long as they have the template in place. So I gave one of my friends who was a stay-at-home mom, I gave her the headlines, the images, and the ad copy. And she just started setting up the campaigns. I created a couple of Snagit or Jing videos and showed her each step on what she needed to do, and she was off to the races and ran it. I hired someone else. She was not proficient in Photoshop. She knew nothing about Photoshop, so I just hired someone else on Upwork to create the 800 different images I needed that were very specific to those audiences. And she just put those in Dropbox for me, and then my local friend would grab them out of Dropbox and create the campaigns. And so how we tracked this pay-per-call campaign was individual phone numbers. So um, the girl setting up the ads, my friend, she used individual phone number. I think we grouped the campaigns of upwards of like 25 or 50. This is more so for the horizontal scaling. The vertical scaling, obviously, you only need one phone number because it's really one ad. Maybe a couple different angles, a couple different ads, but it's just one or two. But with the horizontal scaling, we wanted to have unique, at least groups of ad sets, groups of audiences as possible, so that we could, we didn't want to get 800 different phone numbers because that would just get a little bit pricey to have that many phone numbers. But we started grouping them in sets of like 25 or 50, so that if we found that one group of 25 or 50 ad sets was underperforming, then we would, or wasn't getting an ROI positive for that day, then we would shut it off. And so she did that all in a spreadsheet every day. She looked at the ROI, she looked at how much we were spending and how much we were making, and she would determine if we needed to shut it off. So if you're going to do your campaigns going horizontal and you have, not so much states, it's only 50 states. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably still hire someone if I was doing going horizontal with states. But if you're doing audiences when there's hundreds of different ways to target, definitely I would recommend hiring someone off of Upwork or someone local. I'm a huge fan of hiring someone local. So do that. So I get this question a lot. Is like, can you give me some examples of how to do horizontal scaling in my own business? And so here's a couple of ways that you can do it, and I've even done this in several different campaigns. One is an SEO company, as an example, is going after different business verticals. I've done this for a client who was selling to lawyers, and so they're an SEO company and they could target anybody, but they had a lot of results for lawyers. So we set up a campaign that was only targeting lawyers. But if you have, multiple results in all of these different business verticals, and set up all of them, set up as many as you can. Go after, chiropractors, dentists, lawyers, electricians, plumbers, just continue to create multiple campaigns to go after those, because your messaging is going to be a lot more clear to those people. It's going to look like it's for them rather than, hey, we're an SEO company and we can help you, business owner, rather than saying plumber. So another example would be auto insurance. If you're selling auto insurance, if you're an agent, and go after different age ranges and say, my friend is 35 and she, blah blah blah, got this new rate, and so on and so forth. Why you have to go like the my friend route is you can't say you can't necessarily call out someone's age range. Like, are you 35 and want to get lower auto insurance? Facebook doesn't like you calling out age ranges. But if you tell it as a story, you tell like as someone that's a way to get around saying the age without actually calling it out. Then people can still relate to it and say, oh, this person's 35 like me, rather than this ad's calling me out saying, oh, I am 35. Wow, this is weird. So that's kind of a sneakier way to get around, is just saying it more like it's your friend rather than you calling that person out. And lastly is like if you're in the e-commerce space, which I know a lot of my friends are getting into that space. You could say people in Orange County or California or Los Angeles are freaking out about this new drone or whatever you're selling. Um, this is good to do with e-commerce, especially after looking at your stats. Like if you start seeing that, maybe people in the South are really buying your product, or maybe a certain state is getting a lot more conversions than others. Like that's when you can start getting more specific with your ads and start targeting people in those, counties or states or even cities. But it's good for running lead generation campaigns as well. It's again, always be looking at your stats and seeing where those conversions are coming from, and then create campaigns that are specific to that. So that's some of my thoughts on horizontal scaling. I hope you found this little case study useful. I'm sorry I couldn't show you the ads and the landing page. The landing page, like I said, was very simple. It was just phone number, YouTube video, and then phone number again. Unfortunately, for confidential reasons for myself and for the campaign, I just can't give away that information. But hopefully, you still got a lot of information out of how to scale and how I set up these types of campaigns, not only for myself, but for my clients, my consulting clients, my consulting group, and also my one-on-one clients. So I also have a Facebook group called Facebook Ads for Business Owners. So if you're a business owner and you run Facebook ads, or you'd like to, I talk about all sorts of fun stuff in there. And I give away a lot of my ads too. I know I didn't in this case study, but in my Facebook group, I do. So I took a screenshot of one of them, and And so this campaign is actually in the Facebook group. So if you're interested in seeing some more case studies like this one, which got over 700,000 views, over 900 comments, and 1.6 thousand people that reacted to it. If you'd like to see this case study and the ad itself, jump over to the Facebook group. It's paidtrafficarchitect.com/Facebook group, and go ahead and join, and you'll get to see not only this case study, but a few other nuggets that I'm always putting in there, as well as any of the new stuff that I am either learning or doing with my clients on a day-to-day basis. So I hope to see you in there, and I hope that you got some value out of this video. Okay, all right, I'll see you in the Facebook group.